Hello and welcome to Explorers Adapting in a Pandemic. I'll be talking about how COVID-19 has changed the experience for many scouts across the country, but specifically in Blackpool. Scouting was founded in 1907 by Lord Baden-Powell. He was a general in the British Army and wrote a book about his younger years in the army when he was scouting. Scouting was originally called Boy Scouts, and that was only because boys were allowed to do it. And then Girl Scouting, or Girl Scouts, came along. Nowadays, Boy Scouts have just turned into Scouting when boys and girls can do both. However, Girl Guiding, as it's now called today, is still only girls. This is the Scouting logo. You've probably seen it before. At the top of the logo, there is an arrow. It looks like this, so it points the right way in life. Following by it, there are two stars. One is to represent knowledge and one is to represent truthfulness. In Scouting, we have many different age ranges. Normally, when you hear the term Boy Scout, you think of a teenage boy. However, Scouting starts from age 6 to 21. We have Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Explorers, and Network. There's different age ranges to all these groups, and once you've finished these groups, you can become a young leader and then a leader. Today in Scouting, over 50,000 people are involved with this organisation. Every day there are groups meeting, whether it's Beavers, Cubs, Scouts or Explorers. Probably right now whilst you're watching this, there is someone getting ready to go to one of these nights. Different groups start at different times. Normally Beavers start around 6 PM. However, Explorers and Scouts start more around the 7:30. The duration of the nights change as you grow older, because you have more time and more energy to withdraw a night. Within Explorers you can access camps, expeditions, activities and a lot more. The older you get, the more activities you do. There are many camps and expeditions you can access during Scouting. Scouts across the UK would normally meet weekly. However, from 2020 and the impact from COVID-19, it has changed a lot. A lot of the face-to-face meetings have been stopped, and by the 23rd of March, when Boris Johnson announced the country was going into quarantine and lockdown, Scouting stopped as a whole. When lockdown was announced, Scouting kept strong and kept hope that face-to-face meetings could happen again. And still through 2020, lockdown has been going on. Lockdown lasted quite a long time and is still ongoing. The restrictions are now easing, however, let's look at what it was like at the start of COVID. During the pandemic, we did online calls, Zoom meetings, and many more. We did activities online, share videos and tasks around the house. During the pandemic, we've unfortunately lost members of the Scouting community to coronavirus. This has impacted the Scouting community, however, we have kept strong and pushed through, and making sure we keep safe during the hard times of coronavirus. During the pandemic, events, expeditions and district camps have been cancelled and postponed. When we look at the future of Scouting, no one can tell what will happen. Because of the pandemic, it has put a massive speed bump in our timeline and career. Right now, we will be looking how Scouting has adapted to the changes throughout COVID-19. The pandemic didn't just stop. COVID-19 was still there, so restrictions had to be put in place for these meetings to happen. Cycling and walks were the best ideas, as it required outdoor space only. In Explorers, a lot of people like to walk and like to bike ride as well, so we thought these were the best options by going to some landmarks around the Far Coast. We started off at Stanley Park, the model village. That was the main meeting point as it was a central location in Blackpool. We also started at the Tower. This is a very good landmark to place the Far Coast as a whole. And as we started there, we could branch out from wherever we wanted to. During the pandemic, all of our bike rides were successful. However, a few did have mishaps. We counted for these in our risk assessments and had a car waiting for anything we needed. For example, in Lytham, one of our leaders got a flat tyre. A bike pump was supplied, and after a short lunch break we were back on the roads again. Again, this is a great example of how our leaders counted this in our risk assessments. During the pandemic we had a lot of bike rides. A few of them were long, but a few were short. For the people that couldn't go great distance on bike rides, we had short bike rides for them. However, most people and explorers can't bike ride, and this is a great shame as it's a brilliant outdoor activity. So what we did instead was walks. One of our best walks was the Christmas walk. It wasn't very far, but still very fun. A lot attended this, and to this day was our favourite walk in Explorers. We started off at the windmill. This is on the edge of Blackpool and very accessible to go down any trails. One of the trails in particular was the motorway trail, as we call it. This track runs adjacent to the motorway until it breaks off to a little village called Wheaton. We then went across to a train line bridge, crossed over and back to Staining. We had a break at Staining in the play area and then carried on back to Stanley Park, the model village. In one of our recent walks we walked to Mowbray. Mowbray is a campsite near Kirk. We use this space because in Blackpool there are not many outdoor areas, and at Mowbray there are facilities that we can use. For example, there is kitchen facilities, toilets, places to camp, places to put hammocks up, a big campfire, cooking bases, and so much more. We use this campsite because there's not many other places in Blackpool with an open space, and as this is a scouting site, we can use this whenever we need to. Big events are held at Wadger. This is a big filed camping site with many places to do activities. Mowbray is a step down from that, but is still very accessible to everyone in Blackpool. When we went there on our walk, we did barbecues. Explorers brought their own food and cooked it themselves. Leaders watched over and made sure that they didn't harm themselves whilst doing this. The facilities at Mowbray are new. The toilet block has been fully replaced with new pipes and sewage. There is also a new kitchen, with the old one being stripped out and a new one being made. The whole site is having a new revamp. This is done by the volunteers which help out. Most of our volunteers work in the trade, and this is very useful skills as scout leaders to have. This helps a lot as it requires less money to bring in more contractors, and this is beneficial to the scouting community. The equipment used by our volunteers needs to be kept dry and safe. We have storage facilities on site which keep everything we need in there. These have also been updated and optimised for everything we need. The team at Mowbray wanted to update the site. Because of COVID they had the chance to do this. One of the things they did was make new paths. They made new paths around the hammock area and back in the woods. The future is really bright for scouting and everyone wants to be part of it. A main question I was asking myself was, what do I think the leaders have planned to make scouting a more bigger community? So I asked. This is the answer from our Explorer District Commissioner, Joanna Hacking. She said, yes and no. We have people reassess what they want to do with their personal time during lockdown, but conversely, there are people who realised they want to have a bit more in the scouting world. When looking at this answer, I really think the leaders are right. A lot of people didn't want to be part of scouting. I think this because mainly of the Zoom calls. It's not very interactive. However, now we are back to scouting, a lot more members will join, as we've been stuck inside for over nearly a year now, and a lot more people want to be outside. After asking that question, I had many questions pop into my mind, but I could only ask one, so this is what I asked. In the future of scouting, do you think that there will be still measures in place to make meetings secure and COVID-free? In the near future, most definitely. We follow the guidance issued by the government and developed by the National Youth Agency. Leaders and members also need to be happy with the measures we either continue to have in place or decide to remove when we are permitted to. I think this answer is really reasonable. In the future of scouting, there is still going to be COVID measures, but as she said, in the near future only. COVID is looking like it's going to go away now, and I hope I don't jinx that. However, we've gone through the hardest part, and I think the scouting community have kept a positive face during these hard times. Thank you for watching Explorers Adapting in a Pandemic. Again, if you're interested in scouting, go check out scouts.org.uk. On the website you can find all the information from where to join or just more information. Again, thank you very much for watching my documentary, and I hope you have a lovely day.